What if everything that felt like resistance in your life was never there to stop you? What if the delays, the losses, the confusion were not signs that you were failing or being judged? What if the real misunderstanding was never what happened, but how you explained it to yourself? Most people grow up believing life tests them. That struggle is a measure of worth. That pain is proof of weakness. That ease must be earned through suffering. But the universe does not work like a judge handing out exams. It does not reward or punish. It prepares. It adjusts. It reorganizes until the structure can hold what it keeps asking for. When things started falling apart, it felt personal. Plans unraveled. Motivation faded. People drifted away. Direction blurred. It felt like life was pushing back just when you were trying to move forward. And the easiest story to tell yourself was that something was wrong with you, that you missed a lesson, that you were behind. But from a wider view, none of that was true. What you experienced was not interruption. It was recalibration. Any system about to move into a stronger, more stable state goes through disorder first. Old structures stop working. Familiar patterns lose their grip. What once felt solid starts to crack, not because it failed, but because it cannot support what is coming next. That cracking feels like chaos from the inside. But chaos is not random, it is precise. It brings misalignment to the surface, so it can no longer hide. The universe does not send problems, it exposes what cannot move forward with you. Emotional habits, nervous system reactions, identities built around struggle or control. These patterns create noise, and when the signal is noisy, nothing new can land cleanly. So pressure shows up, not to punish you but to train you. This is where most people misunderstand their own growth. They try to stay positive, they force gratitude, they repeat affirmations. But positivity does not regulate a system. Coherence does, and coherence only comes through lived experience, through being stretched, through sitting in uncertainty, through learning how to stay present when control is gone. Your nervous system was being trained. Your tolerance for the unknown was being expanded. Your emotional reactions were being refined. Not because you failed before, but because the version of you that existed before could not yet hold what you were asking for without collapsing. That is not a judgment. That is intelligence. This is why certain desires never arrived when you first wanted them. Not because they were denied, but because they would have destabilized you. A bigger life requires a calmer system. Ease requires an identity that does not panic when things go well. Expansion requires safety in the body, not just belief in the mind. Preparation does not feel gentle. It feels like friction. It feels like endings without replacements. Silence where there used to be noise. A stripping away of what no longer matches you. And when you do not understand what is happening, it is easy to call that punishment or delay. But punishment implies judgment. The universe does not judge, it mirrors. And what was being mirrored back to you was readiness forming. You were not being tested to see if you deserved more. You were being trained to sustain more, to respond instead of react, to sit with discomfort without escaping, to allow uncertainty without forcing answers. Those were not accidents. Those were upgrades. If you are only now starting to sense that there was intelligence behind what you went through, that is not hindsight. That is coherence settling in. You can see the pattern now because you are no longer inside the turbulence of it. The truth is simple. You were never being tested. You were being prepared. When life starts unraveling, the mind looks for meaning in moral terms. What did I do wrong? Why is this happening to me? What lesson am I failing? These questions make sense, but they miss the point. Chaos is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of recalibration. When a structure reaches its limit, it paralyzes, not because it is broken, but because it is no longer sufficient. It must lose its old form before it can reorganize into something stronger. Your life follows the same rule. What looked like disorder was the loosening of structures that could not support where you were going. Jobs, relationships, routines, goals, identities, things that once felt necessary started losing their grip, not because they were bad, but because they no longer matched your frequency. The universe does not remove things randomly. It removes interference. Anything that creates emotional noise gets exposed. Emotional overreaction, chronic stress, attachment to outcomes, needing control, needing struggle to feel safe. These patterns distort the signal, and when the signal is distorted, nothing can land cleanly. So disruption shows up, not as cruelty, but as efficiency. Disruption forces awareness. It shows you where energy is leaking. It brings unconscious habits to the surface. It destabilizes comfort, so regulation can be rebuilt at a higher level. From the nervous system point of view, this is how capacity is created. A system cannot be trained in safety alone. It must face challenge, recover, and adapt. This is why ease arriving too early often leads to self-sabotage. The internal structure is not ready to hold it, so the universe waits. It delays ease until calm becomes your baseline. What you went through was targeted training. You were placed in situations that challenged your default reactions, moments that revealed how fast you reached for control, how tightly you clung, how quickly you collapsed emotionally. And each time your system learned something, sometimes through resistance, sometimes through exhaustion, sometimes through surrender you did not plan. These lessons did not come with explanations. They came with sensations. Fatigue, detachment, a loss of appetite for drama, less tolerance for what feels off. These are not signs of disconnection. They are signs of refinement. Hardship is often framed as a test, but tests imply pass or fail. The universe works through resonance. You do not pass a test to earn a reality. You become stable enough to hold it. If something left your life, it stopped resonating. If something stalled, it was protecting coherence. This is why forcing answers never worked. The system was not asking for solutions, it was asking for capacity. Capacity to stay calm without resolution. Capacity to trust without proof. Capacity to let old structures dissolve without rushing to replace them. Chaos is the fastest way embodiment happens. Once the lesson is embodied, chaos is no longer needed. The baseline shifts. The signal clears. Life becomes quieter, not empty, stable. Looking back, you may see that what felt like loss was release. What felt like confusion was orientation being reset. What felt like delay was timing protecting you. You were not being tested. You were being prepared so you would not break when what you asked for arrived. Before reality changes, the system that perceives it must be trained to hold a new state. This is where manifestation is misunderstood. People think change begins when circumstances shift. In truth, circumstances are the echo of an internal adjustment that already happened. Vibrational training is physical, emotional, neurological. It happens when you are repeatedly placed in situations that require a new level of regulation. It cannot be skipped. Many experiences were not meant to resolve quickly. They were meant to repeat until your reactions changed. Every time you did not explode, did not chase, did not collapse, something even when it felt messy, even when nothing was resolved. The nervous system updates through exposure and recovery, not through explanation. You do not become calm by understanding calm. You become calm by surviving what once overwhelmed you and realizing you are still safe. That is training. This is why some situations disappeared without closure. Once capacity expanded, they were no longer needed. The universe does not deliver new realities to systems that cannot remain coherent inside them. Coherence means emotional stability, flexibility, and calm under expansion. Without that, manifestation collapses into chaos. You were trained to sit with uncertainty, to release attachment without numbing desire, to let go of control without losing direction. This does not come from affirmations. It comes from the body learning safety. Over time, emotional spikes softened, recovery shortened, the baseline shifted. You may not have noticed. Training rarely feels like progress. It feels like endurance. But the result is a quieter, steadier way of being. Others may not see the change. Externally, things may look similar. Internally, everything is different. Less urgency, less desperation, more selectivity. That internal shift is everything. When training works, you stop needing intensity. Calm becomes safe. Silence becomes neutral. You stop negotiating with yourself. Decisions feel obvious. Misalignment becomes intolerable. Alignment does not feel like excitement. It feels like steadiness. The absence of friction becomes the signal. Opportunities arrive without drama. Progress does not require recovery. Often life slows down at the end of training. This is integration. The system locks in what it learned. Pushing here feels exhausting because acceleration would destabilize the new baseline. This pause is not delay. It is containment. This is the phase where trust deepens. Not trust that something good will happen, but trust that nothing needs to happen yet. That restraint allows embodiment to complete. When readiness stabilizes, momentum returns on its own. Clean momentum. Sustainable momentum. And then people say everything changed so fast. They forget how much slowed down first. Preparation is complete when you no longer feel the need to force. When readiness replaces urgency. When life begins responding without pressure. You were never behind. You were never being tested. You are being prepared for a reality that can only arrive when you are stable enough to hold it. And now that preparation has done its work, the only thing left is to allow what has already begun. When preparation finishes, there is a subtle shift that happens before anything external changes. You stop trying to read the universe. You stop scanning for signs. You stop asking what you should do next. Not because you stopped caring, but because the pressure to manage your life dissolves. This is how you know readiness has replaced effort. You are no longer pushing reality to respond. You are responding to reality as it moves. This is where manifestation actually becomes simple. Not easy in the sense of instant results, but simple in the sense that nothing is being forced. Your thoughts no longer fight your body. Your desires no longer conflict with your nervous system. What you want and what you can hold finally match. That alignment is what allows things to show up without friction. Most people think manifestation is about intensity, visualizing harder, feeling more, wanting it badly enough. But intensity is often a sign of instability. When something matters too much, it usually means your system does not feel safe without it. The universe does not respond well to that frequency. It reads it as noise. Preparation quiets that noise. Now, when you think about the future, it does not spike your emotions. You can imagine more without gripping it. You can want without chasing. That is not detachment. That is trust embodied. Desire without desperation, direction without force. This is also where patience changes its meaning. You are not waiting anymore. Waiting implies lack. You are present while things organize. Presence is not passive. It is receptive. It allows timing to do its work without interference. If you try to control this phase, you will feel resistance. Not because you are wrong, but because control belongs to the old identity. The new baseline does not need it. You may notice that when you stop pushing things, resolve on their own. Conversations happen naturally. Information appears at the right moment. Decisions clarify without overthinking. This is the universe responding to coherence. When your internal state is stable, reality does not need to shake you to get your attention. It meets you cleanly. Progress feels quiet, almost ordinary. That is the point. This is also where many people feel an urge to rush ahead, to define the next chapter, to label the transformation. But naming it too early freezes it. Let it stay fluid. Let it settle fully before you build on it. Your role now is simple. Stay regulated. Stay honest. Notice when your body tightens and choose softness instead of force. Notice when urgency creeps in and return to presence. This is not discipline. It is maintenance. Manifestation from this state looks like consistency. Small aligned actions taken without emotional charge. Rest when needed without guilt. Movement when inspired without pressure. Life starts meeting you halfway because you are no longer pulling it out of alignment. If something does not move, yet do not assume it is blocked. Ask a different question. Am I trying to move from an old rhythm? Am I rushing integration? Often the answer is simply to slow down a little more. This phase teaches you that you do not need chaos to grow. You do not need pain to progress. You do not need struggle to feel worthy. Those beliefs belonged to an earlier version of you, the one that needed training. Now growth feels steady. Manifestation feels natural. You are no longer proving anything to the universe. You are cooperating with it. And this is the quiet truth beneath everything you went through. The universe was never testing your strength. It was building your capacity. It was not asking how much you could endure. It was asking how much you could hold. You can hold more now. More ease, more clarity, more stability, more expansion without losing yourself. That is what preparation looks like when it works. Nothing about this needs to be dramatic. Nothing needs to be announced. Let reality respond in its own way. Stay present, stay coherent, stay open. You were never meant to fight your way forward. You were meant to be shaped until forward could meet you.